Our lunch speaker is a truly remarkable and accomplished woman. She's known to most of us for her work in film, and she describes herself as a storyteller. And she's spending quite a bit of time telling the stories of people who can't tell their own stories, the victims of trafficking and slavery, because often these people don't have a voice. She is the founding chair of Film Aid International, and she's the president of the Alliance to Stop Slavery and End Trafficking. It's an organization that focuses on creating systemic change to stop slavery at its source.
I want to apologize kind of ahead of time because it's a tricky subject to discuss while you're all eating. It touches on some dark areas, but I really feel it's important for me to be accurate about the stories that are out there and for us to understand the extent of the problem and the gravity of it. But I want to start by talking about my journey. I started this journey with a number of preconceived ideas about the issue, that it was primarily about the forced sex trade, that the United Nations path to eradicating it of what they call PPP, prevention, prosecution, and protection, was admirable and holistic. The major hurdles were conflict, corruption, and lack of enforcement. That it was frankly less of a Western problem, and that I was not part of the issue. Let's just say I wasn't part of the problem. Asset defines slavery as when one person completely controls another person, uses violence to maintain that control, and pays them effectively nothing. A slave cannot walk away. Human trafficking is the process of moving a person into slavery. I went to Chiang Mai in Thailand and was given a wonderful, very comprehensive demonstration by officials there for about an hour, and at the end of it, their stats on how many trafficking victims they had actually processed was less than 50. And I said, are you telling me that in 4 years you've had less than 50 trafficking victims? You have all these resources, how can that be? And after a long time, it turned out that they only count the trafficking victims who take part in prosecution. They don't count the people who are potential trafficking victims. And that's what goes into that global stat. Chiang Mai has 1,500 brothels. Every time they do a raid, they release 20 potential trafficking victims. Those are just the known brothels. The unknown ones are where the trafficking victims really lie. So 50 is a very much so a tip of the iceberg figure. And higher up, that sickening food chain, is transnational organized crime that has gone through its own globalization and left us in the dust. So we don't really have accurate stats. We do know trends, and these are some of the trends. We do know that it is the same people who traffic in weapons, who traffic in drugs, who traffic in people. They use the same routes. The more we clamp down on weapons trafficking, the more we clamp down on drugs trafficking, the more they shift into people, and people is now shifting into children. The selling of children is now the fastest growing global crime.